Order. Welcome to everybody. And the first question I have, do we need to add anything to the agenda?
No, I see this is short agenda, and I see we have public input, more, non-public.
Non-public, yeah.
3, so I think we have more non-public input. We have public input
26.
now, I know.
I haven't talked with any of those, so I'm not sure what the purpose is for non-public. I know the
One is
the
a
safety committee is
committee.
recommending a lock car policy.
And is that, do they have to come in non-public for that? What do you recommend?
I don't know, I'll have to wait and see what they have to say, why they want it non-public.
Oh, so they requested non-public.
What's that?
They requested to come non-public? Is that?
That's the way it was put down. I'm not
Oh,
sure it has to
okay.
be non-public. Okay, so we'll open up the meeting. I'll open it up to any public comments. Yes, Damon?
How serious is the county looking at having a county administrator?
How serious?
Yeah, is that a,
It's very serious. We need to have somebody. Right now, we got an interim, and we'll have a report from him. I don't know how the survey went.
not for
Oh.
the nursing home, just
You're
for the
talking
county
about a nursing
overall?
home
Oh,
administrator.
an overall?
Yeah,
His question was a county administrator.
County
Yeah,
administrator.
not the nursing home administrator.
Well, I think we need to talk about it.
and when would we do that?
When we get our other business in order.
Oh, you mean like hiring the full position of county, the nursing home administrator and doing stuff like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What will have to happen is we'd have to go to the delegation for next year's budget to budget for such a person. And we're talking anywhere between 80 to 100,000.
So there's
For-
nothing you can do really till November, essentially until after the next.
We have the authority to hire, but we gotta have some money in the budget.
And you can't
Anybody-
bring it up to the delegation until after the election,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Anybody else public input? Mr. Babson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I spoke with you over the phone about this, but I'd really like to bring it up in a public session. As you know, I had a friend whose mother is suffering from Alzheimer's, and for the last 2.5 years, she's been living with one daughter in Keene and the other 2.5 in Connecticut. But they've been residents here in Wolfboro for over 40 years. And have paid, they have a home on Lake Wentworth, so they paid plenty of taxes. And in planning ahead, the daughters signed their mother up for the nursing home last, I don't know when it was,
May.
but it was before May. Because they
Before
came
May,
in May to check up to see how she was coming along on the list. And she was told they were number one. She was number one. Here we are in September, and they go back again, and she's still number one. Now, I don't have the statistics, but I would assume that perhaps somebody might have died of Alzheimer's disease in the last 5.5, 6 months.
Yep.
And the reason you were given, and you passed it along to me, was that she was number one on the list, but there are emergency situations. And
Yeah.
Alzheimer's, to the best of my knowledge, is a degenerate, progressive disease, and you're not well today in an emergency case tomorrow morning. And I don't understand, I forget what the old adage is, but it's something like, your poor planning doesn't constitute an emergency for me. And I don't understand why the woman who is in a private institution now,
Yep.
Hospital,
Hospital,
facility.
or is she in a nursing home?
she's over in Wolfboro at the private
Nursing
one
home.
over there.
At nursing home?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't see why she doesn't get the vacant space if there is one, and
Mhm.
I'm just guessing there might have been one.
Yeah.
And the person that's in the emergency goes to the other place, because why are we penalizing somebody for planning ahead?
Mhm.
And I would like to know what the definition from the nursing home is, from Mr. Chandler. What in an emergency? I'd like to know how many people have left the facility that have one, either upright or horizontal, since May. And, well, I guess I had another question, but I can't think of it right now. It seems to me we ought to have a policy.
I will talk with,
Or if we have one, we ought to know what it is.
with the social worker today. When I called you, I called from Portsmouth, and I called her prior to you, I guess, before I called you back. And she said, we don't put anybody on the list, we don't say they're number one on the list. I don't know about that, I gotta do some follow-up on that.
Well, you,
And she said that there was no beds available right now in the Alzheimer's wing. I find that hard to believe myself, especially if this person was ready since May to come in. But I'll have to talk with the social worker and find out what is the status and how are we admitting people.
well, Mr. Chairman, you told me in that same phone conversation that this woman is still number one, is what you told me. She's at the top
I
of
don't
the
remember,
list.
maybe I did, yeah,
Well, I
okay,
know you did.
okay.
And if they don't say they're number one or number two, why would, obviously you didn't make that up. You didn't pull that out of the air and
Yeah.
say she's number one.
Right.
Somebody must have told you that she's either at the top of the list or number one, or whatever you want to call it, as.
Probably top of the list would be
you
better
know,
than number
the-
one, but, yep.
That she's the next to be admitted with no emergencies, unless there's an emergency, I believe you told me.
Yeah, yeah.
So it would appear to me that there might be two different stories going on here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would like to know, mostly I'd like to see a policy, as with Mr. Brown, about who gets priority around here.
Mhm.
And now throwing this, what is an emergency, so that somebody's planned 6 months ahead of time doesn't get bumped for someone that hasn't done any planning at all.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't think Mr. Chandler
He probably won't know.
won't know. I don't think he'll know, but we can ask him. Damon?
A couple of weeks ago, and maybe it was last week, we talked about the missing file, and there was a grievance, and I would like to say that, we have it. I mean, we've seen it. It was about $2,000.
You have it?
I have it. Yeah, I mean, I didn't have
How
it.
did you
with
get
me.
it?
I got it from the office. It doesn't really say much other than, the employee got $2,000, and then it's just a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo. But in any case, Mr. Brown brought it up, and then it seemed like you didn't recall it. I mean, maybe you sign a lot of these different paperwork and you
Mhm.
can't remember everything, but your signature was on it. It was from November last year, and it just seems like last week or the week before, you seemed like it may not exist, or
It existed, it was missing for a week.
right.
I found a letter that I responded to someone involved in it, where it was missing for a week, and I do have it, it's in the file.
Okay, but it seemed
I
like
said, it could have been missing for a couple of hours, but
right.
after I found that letter that I responded to an individual, it was missing for about a week.
But I guess my criticism of that exchange was, you said, well, you said there was a grievance. Well, he's on record as saying there's a grievance. Well, I mean, there was something to that effect. I mean, it just seemed like you were acting like it didn't exist.
I don't know how much I can tell you,
Right.
to be honest with you. You got the right figure, it's around $2,200.
Yeah.
Now, if you put two and two together, that's not much of a a settlement
Right.
type thing, so, I mean, you know, normally they're 35,000, 90,000, or whatever.
Right.
And that was $2,200.
And I'm not sure if
Figure it
was
out
you-
from there, I can't
Right.
really talk about it, but,
Right. And it seemed like it was about, monies owed through vacation or something like that. It's just a lot of legalese that's kind of.
you're on the right track.
Pursue.
Well.
It probably should have never gone to a grievance or to a so-called settlement.
Well, I think that is what he's saying, I'm not sure.
Well,
I can say anything, this vacation or this what, I'm not really sure.
okay.
I'm not really sure what it is. And I think maybe the taxpayers will never know the right amount because they can file and get settlements through other things. They can file worker comps and get a settlement, and you don't know. They can file for anything.
Well,
And when I asked for a list of the settlements, I get it. There was, one person was not even on the list, and I heard a name, I asked about it, and they say that person never get a settlement. After a long time, then you hear, yeah, that person get a settlement, and I think they added now, if somebody asks for a new list, you have a list now where a new settlement is added. But I didn't get that last year, so sometimes the taxpayers will never know the truth.
it's a case of Primex and other attorneys saying we should not let out only what the name is and what the dollar amount is. And I believe that dollar amount was $2,200 and something,
Right.
okay? Anybody else? Yes, Mr.
On the
Bennett.
second item, Mr. Chairman, you know my feeling about not putting public comment on the
Yes, I do.
minutes. But, it now says there's no, in attendance, there's no list of people, 8 others in the public. Is it that big a deal to put down 3 people's names, 4 people's names?
No, but I think, Mr. Babson, that, we could have 15 people here, and all 15 want to have something to say in public. When we're going to record all that, it takes time.
Well, that's a different issue than just putting who's in attendance here.
Okay. Well, what's your suggestion?
Pardon me?
What's your suggestion?
Well, that you put down the list of public is here unless we have a special instance where there's 35 people here and you can't put them all down.
Okay.
And then you may just put down the name of the speakers, but just for 4 or 5 people. And maybe it's a strictly a selfish reason on my part. I've been attending these meetings fairly regularly for the last 5.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
If there were no record, nobody could come back and check that.
I agree.
I think we can put like a sign-up sheet there, a sign-up sheet,
Yeah.
and we put it there, and
That's
anyone
even a
who-
better idea.
And
That's a
anyone
good
who
idea.
comes at a meeting
Yeah.
can just sign their name there.
Much better idea.
That's a good idea.
And have that attached to the minutes.
We can
Yep.
do
Yep.
that.
Yep,
Much better idea.
okay. Anybody else for public input? Mr. Brown?
Excuse me, to follow up with Mr. Babson's topic, I've spoken to Mr. Chandler, and Mr. Chandler agrees that there ought to be a county list.
Mhm.
So maybe we can get a county list going here for the nursing home? Because Mr. Chandler believes that there should be a county list for the people of the county.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So,
Any further?
yes.
Go ahead.
To follow up with Damon's comment, I believe it was the September 5th meeting. I asked you about that missing file.
Yes, you did.
And you said you knew nothing about it.
At that time, I didn't want to talk about it because I wasn't sure what could be said about it. Since that time, I have found a letter that I addressed to an individual, and I stated in there that that was missing for about a week.
Right, and then later in that same meeting,
Yep.
when the April 25th non-public was released, not only did you know about that, but you actually had a discussion about it.
Well, okay.
So, well, I mean, it's just, when I ask you a question and you say, no, I know nothing about it, but yet here's Damon saying that you actually signed it, so you know, you should have just not said you didn't know anything about it when you did.
Okay. All right, okay. I'll take it. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Mr. Beck. You, go ahead. Wait a
Going
minute.
along-
Are you finished?
No, I,
Okay, go ahead.
do you have the, you said you were gonna get me the information on the, 5.14 million in extra revenue?
I saw that, and where did you come up with the 5.1 million in revenue?
Right from
I saw that in the minutes.
your sheet. From 2008, the budget was $21,993,455.
Okay,
And in 2012, it's $27,136,391. That's a little over $5.14 million increase.
okay.
And you stated that
That's over a 4-year period, right?
over a 4-year period,
Yep.
and you said that why the amount needed to be raised by taxes is going down is
That's right.
because you're generating all this this additional revenue.
Right.
So you stated that you were gonna get me the information on the $5.14 million in additional revenue that's going to offset the amount needed to be raised by taxes.
Okay, what we had was surplus left over, and we put, I believe, $2.5 million in surplus we put towards reducing the amount of money to be raised by taxes. And that reduced it down to either $12 million or $13 million to be raised by taxes. And that was lower in 2009 and 2010. I believe, maybe it was 10 and 11, 2010 and 11. 2012, it went up 2.86%,
2.87.
2.87. It went up because we had a payment for the new nursing home, plus we got hit with a tremendous increase in the DEAS that came from the state that we had to make up, and that's why it went back up again.
Well, but surplus is still tax dollars.
That's true.
I mean, it's, no matter how, if the budget's gone up over
Yep.
5.14 million,
Yep.
and the surplus is still tax dollars.
Yeah, I agree.
So, I mean, it's still, the budget has gone up, and
That's
it's
right.
really not, but you stated it was revenue. So
Okay,
it's real-
but the budget went up for two reasons. One, payment for the new nursing home, and two, like a $300,000 increase that the state put on us that we hadn't planned for. And so the budget went up, no question about it.
Right, but is it revenue or is it tax dollars that's going to offset the, I mean, surplus is tax dollars. So it's really not revenue.
All right, it's a surplus then, that we put
Right.
towards reducing the
But
amount.
that's a big difference between revenue and surplus,
Well-
which is tax dollars.
Yeah, but I would stand corrected in saying that part of that is revenue. The nursing home has taken in a lot more money than has in the past. And I would say that is revenue. Exactly what's revenue and what's surplus, I'd have to go back and look at the budget or talk with Kathy Geary as to how much of that was surplus and how much of it was revenue. Okay? Mr. Babson?
Speaking of the devil, Mr. Chandler
Yeah.
made the comment, not that you're the devil, Mr. Chandler, but he mentioned that you believed in a county list, and I was just gonna add that the conversation we had here
Yeah.
was Mr. Chandler agreed with it. It was only a question of what you used for a residency time to be considered I think that was it, wasn't it, Mr. Chairman?
Well, it actually gets more complicated than that. I actually have a written proposal for the commissioners for this morning.
Oh,
Okay, okay. All right, it's past the time for public input, so I'm going to move into the regular meeting, in which is Will DeWitt.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just have a couple of quick things.
Okay. Thank you. By the way, I should have said earlier that there are these, Commissioner Solomon is not here today. She celebrates a holiday today, and so therefore she had told us last week that she wasn't going to be here, so that's why she's not here today.
Just a couple quick things. I talked about last week, we had to get the plastic picked up out of the garden. We've accomplished that, and the water lines are all taken care of as well. So the next step in that is I'd like to be able to put some compost that we've been creating all summer out back on it and disc it in and let it sit for the winter. Deliveries are taking place every day. I think they took out 3 deliveries yesterday, which is a good amount.
Wood or hay?
Wood yesterday. We've also been both. Some days it's been half wood, half hay. For the most part, we're caught up on the hay deliveries. I think we have 1 or 2 more, but the customers don't want it for another week or 2. Then we have some more wood ones that we're trying to catch up. But we've put a good dent in them, and we're working right along with that. Lots of wastewater department work taking place. Fall time, generally speaking, fall time and springtime is the 2 times that we spend a lot of extra time on those, getting them fall cleaning and spring cleaning, checking all the pumps, doing those types of things. Plus, we're having a visit from the state that's going to be taking place on Friday. They called us last week and said they wanted to come up, take a look at the thing. So just getting stuff all tidied up for that and for the fall. The other 2 things that I wanted to talk about is some things that are going to be coming in the future. Just wanted to give a heads up to the commissioners and also get their opinions. The safety committee, which I'm part of, would like to get speed bumps for the complex, basically. More so this building in the nursing home is primarily what it's aimed towards. They feel that we put signs up first. We tried that. It didn't seem to have a big effect on slowing people down. So the next step they would like to look at is investing in the speed bumps.
How does that affect plowing?
Well, the type I'm looking at, it would be removable, so we can pull them up in the fall and then put them back down in the spring, so that way we don't have a plowing issue. There are a couple different, I just started researching it a little bit yesterday. There are a couple different types there that I found. These things are pretty expensive too, but there's types you can drill into, they basically anchor into the asphalt, or there are types that you can lay down, and they're designed, the width and the way that they're designed, they would not move without drilling. Those ones maybe are a little bit more money, but those are the type I would be leaning towards.
What kind of money are we talking about?
What I saw on the internet, I have just 1 or 2 sites that I looked at. We're looking at probably in the vicinity of like $500 a piece.
A piece.
The safety committee's recommending that when I get this together to propose it to you folks, of like 5 or 6 that they would like for the complex. But I think there's a place down in Concord that I was going to go look also. This was just online that I looked yesterday quickly. There's a couple other places I want to research and try to get better prices before I come to you folks with it. But I'm pushing towards the ones where we don't drill into the asphalt, because once we do that, then water gets in there in the wintertime, freeze, we'll have more problems with our asphalt. I'd rather pay a little bit more money, I think, and have the type that we don't bolt down to the ground and save our asphalt a little bit better.
Okay.
So that's something that I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks that I'll be having more numbers. It's something that we talked about when I presented to you that would be going to for the budget for next year. Wouldn't be something we'd be doing right away, but to plan for next year. Another thing in regards to planning for next year that I would like to do is getting the drains, not the sewer drains, but the runoff water drains sucked out, cleaned out. The town of Ossipee came this year and they did a couple on County Farm Road that they do, but I don't know what judges the town and what judges the county down there. It's kind of weird because they're offset over here a couple feet, and now all of a sudden those are the county, so they didn't do those ones, but they did these ones, and I don't know the situation there, but either which way, ours need to be done also. Most of them are at the
How
jail.
many do we have, do you know?
I have to count up, I think we have somewhere in the vicinity of a half a dozen. We have more at the new nursing home.
Yeah.
But those ones I don't think need to be done because that just went in. It's the ones at the jail, and then there's at least one in this parking lot that I'm concerned about. The jail's been up for 10 years now, or next year will be 10 years, and it's never been done. So it's something that I think, and when we got down in there and looked at it, there's actually sand starting to back up into some of the pipes. So I think that it's something next year that we need to, I'm gonna get prices. Again, I haven't got prices yet. The company, I believe, that did it for the town was out of Laconia, and so I could get their price.
So the town hires out,
Yeah, the town did, yeah.
subcontract?
Yeah, it was a big truck. I haven't, like I said, I haven't looked into it yet. There might be some, I would hope to think maybe there could be some in our county that we could look at. But it's something that needs to be done. It's been 10 years and it hasn't been done. So I think that we should.
I would, my suggestion would be to check with some of the towns
Yeah.
to see if they have that type of equipment. Conway does, I'm wondering about Wolfboro.
Oh, okay.
And if we could just, if we've only got 6 of them, maybe a town could come in and we'd pay the town whatever the rate is. I'd rather see it stay here in the county than to go out.
Okay, I can do that.
And I can't believe, a couple of hours it would take to clean out 6
Yeah.
drains.
I don't think it'd take
Not
very
much,
long.
No.
Um,
I would check with Wolfboro and see
Wolfboro?
what they've got, and see if it's a possibility.
Yep. Yeah, we had a problem a couple years ago, I don't know if you remember that, out here, that we tore some pavement up.
Yeah.
And one of the pipes, the drain pipe, had gotten clogged, so it ended up
Mhm.
creating a sinkhole,
Yep.
because the water couldn't get through.
Yep.
And we fixed that, but I would like to stay on top of these so that we don't
Mhm.
have that problem. And I think it's
Yep.
gone longer than we should have, but it's something that we need to look into. So I'll definitely check with the town, Wolfboro and some of the other towns, get some prices.
Check with the
And-
town and see if you can do it before next week, and we can approve it next week, depending on what the cost might be, and get it done this fall, rather than wait.
Okay, I don't know where we would have, I don't know how much it would cost and where the money would come from. It's not something we really planned for this year.
It would come out of the maintenance budget.
Right. Outside maintenance is what I'm assuming.
Actually,
Or the maintenance of the
I
building.
have to look at the budget, whether it come out of maintenance out of the nursing home or out of the general maintenance budget. We do have a general maintenance budget,
Okay,
so,
but either way, I can check into some prices.
Yep. okay.
So that's just something else that I think that needs to be done. There's, might be a couple more things as the fall goes on that,
Mhm.
that I'll be talking about, but those are the two.
How's the
important-
pole barn coming?
Slowly.
Slowly?
I'm basically waiting to get the trees milled out. We cut the trees.
Yeah.
Hopefully, not next week, I think the week after. You told me about the second or third week of October, he'd be able to come to mill the trees out, mill the poles out.
Yeah.
And I'm also, so we're waiting for that basically.
Mhm.
So,
Can you use telephone poles? Use telephone poles for the posts?
not the way that we've designed it, because we've already poured the concrete.
Yeah.
And we have set into the concrete, we have the bracket that's gonna hold the square pole.
Okay.
Because we poured them on sonotubes.
Mhm.
So I would think with
Yeah.
the big telephone poles, it's something we want to sink the pole into the ground, I would imagine. Or it's gonna be round, so it's not gonna be able to fit the brackets that we bought to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, okay. They just seem to last and last and last, and I don't know what public service does with those telephone poles, but,
Right.
anyway, okay. How about inmates? Are you getting inmates out or not?
Yes, our numbers have picked up. We've gotten, the last few days, we've been bouncing between 4 to 6 inmates.
Mhm.
So it has picked back up for the most part.
Okay, okay. All your people had their vacation time used up?
No,
Not yet?
we're still rotating through. Fall time tends to be when we do more vacations because we don't have as pressing things going on, like the
Yeah.
haying or the plowing.
Yeah.
So there'll be still some more rotating through within the next couple of months.
How much second crop did you get this year?
We got, I'd have to add it up, but I want to say we're in the vicinity of 600 or 700 bales that we did, which was pretty poor considering how much acreage we covered to get that. I mean,
Yeah.
Normally I would get that in less than half of what we covered for acreage, but it was what it was, so we took it while it was there.
Have you had a chance to walk the path?
I have not. I haven't seen Wendy in a while
Yeah.
to get with her on that.
You may want to get in touch with her and walk it.
Yeah.
And if there's enough inmates and we have the equipment, we need to start brushing out some of those areas. I talked with the, no? You shaking your head, no?
Yeah.
What? Go ahead.
There's a program that I had brought up there where young people come in.
Yep.
And as long as you give them housing, they do all the work.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna be writing up a grant for that.
Okay, when is that? What's the
Well, it wouldn't start
deadline?
till
or-
next year, I don't think, but we're gonna.
You're not gonna do anything until next
We're
year?
gonna be discussing that today. I don't know their
Okay.
availability, but I got
Okay.
the information yesterday
Okay,
to discuss at today's friends
Okay.
meeting.
okay, that answers that question. But you ought to walk it,
Right.
because some of it's right along edges of fields,
Yeah.
and maybe it should be pushed back next to the stone walls,
Okay.
or that area cleaned out. If she's got somebody that's gonna do that. They require housing?
I'll touch base with you, Will.
Okay.
About that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only thing they require. They bring all their tools, provide their food. It's pretty much.
Where do they come from?
All across the country.
Oh. Okay,
They can do it in two and a half to 3 weeks.
okay. Walk the trail
Mhm.
and see if you agree with the way, where it was laid out,
Okay.
okay? Before we get a group in here to do it.
Okay.
Okay, good. You have any questions?
No,
No?
thank
No?
you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Mr. Chandler?
We'll have
Good morning.
Good morning. I know you called me, and I called you back and left a message to get in touch with Commissioner Solomon, because I wasn't here. I was in Portsmouth.
Well,
It'd be
it wasn't-
easier to talk with her.
Well, it wasn't urgent. The
Okay.
reason for the call was twofold, to request a meeting, to try to establish, because there's been a lot of questions from resident staff, and certainly my own concern of where the commissioners are going with a permanent appointment.
Okay.
Because that's open-ended. But
Okay.
the other part was actually good news in that we completed our survey on Thursday. After Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we had a team of about 6 state surveyors in. And the good news is that Mountain View community did exceedingly well. We're expecting perhaps a minor issue with a documentation issue that had no untoward outcome to residents. So, and that's always unfortunate, and that might keep us from being
Mhm.
completely deficiency-free. But you have good reason to be proud of your staff. And this is looking back to Sandy and especially Becky
Mhm.
and all the staff. To Bob's end on facility with life safety was trouble-free. And this guy went
That's
through
an
the place with
important
a,
one.
it is. And this guy went through with a fine-tooth comb.
Mhm.
The inspectors were very thorough. And very pleased with what they found, apart from what they document officially in discussions that I had with both the team leader and one of the surveyors. They're very impressed with the quality of care.
Mhm.
And then that's, so, we all have good reason to be proud.
Mhm.
In terms of other things that are going on, today we have a census of 102, so one less than capacity. We brought up last week getting prices on lifts, and I have some preliminary prices coming in that are very
Okay.
favorable, but still we'll be getting the 3 quotes that you requested before making a presentation before you
Mhm.
for that.
Mhm.
Point of clarification on the MDS proposal that I brought to you last week. You reported that was your understanding that was going to be for preparation for the survey. In discussions with Becky, it
Mhm.
wasn't survey preparation, but actually as an audit to be able to be sure that we're recovering as much money, generating as many revenues as we can.
Mhm.
Now, that issue has become become actually more acute now that our acting MDS coordinator will be leaving for family medical leave.
Yeah.
So now we are there's no redundant systems in place, so we are without anybody to do that.
We've advertised, and I don't believe we've had any applicants come forward.
I was told that there were applicants, now
Were
whether or
there?
not they're qualified.
Well, maybe we'll hear
In
from
talking- In talking to Janice,
Okay.
that there were applicants. I have no idea where they are in the hiring process, but it does leave us with a short-term problem. Becky has looked to other facilities to see if there's anybody that was willing to pick up extra hours.
Yep.
Has approached previous MDS coordinators with the idea of
Yep.
bringing somebody back temporarily, and has not met with success with either. So it leaves us, it's something we can't go without. It could put us in a position of, with your approval, looking to perhaps exactly the same consultant, not to do audit work, but to actually do the data entry work to be sure that the county continues to get the revenues in a timely fashion that it needs. So I'd look to you for direction for that, whether or not, or how you'd like to proceed with that.
Well, no question, we need one. I guess I'd like to wait and see what the HR has found for applicants
Okay.
and see if there's any qualified, and if there is, we may hire one full-time versus having a consultant come in. I know Axelrod, years ago, she came in and it cost us a lot of dollars. And I know this position generates income. But it got to the point where it was excessive, more so than what we had agreed upon. And this estimate that she gave us for $3,000, I think it was.
That was for the audit.
$3,000 is not bad. However, if it extends on, it's just an estimate, and she continues to work and cost us more money, that becomes an issue, I think. And
Our
with-
immediate concern is for it's an estimated 2 weeks of
Mhm.
family leave time. That's
Yeah,
a
I
little
know.
bit indeterminate,
Yep.
depending on
Yep.
the status of the staff members,
Mhm.
family members' health.
Yeah.
But she's estimating that should be up 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it should be a limited duration. We also actually save money because we're not paying salary during that time. So family medical leave is not compensated.
Okay.
So that it
Okay.
would still cost about 3 times as much per hour.
Okay, now, this person that's filling in, what was her job before?
Her job,
And who's doing that?
nobody's doing the other job. In fact, it's part of my recommendation to actually Janice to consider this person for the permanent position, and to effectively eliminate or transfer the other hours to other clinical aspects where we could actually use more help.
Mm-hmm.
We're a little thin on nights and in some support services.
Yeah.
And so to redistribute that money into a more productive way
Mhm.
as an option. But I say that not knowing who else
Yeah,
has
yeah.
applied or is interviewed.
Okay.
But the person who's acting, Lisa, has submitted her name for consideration for the permanent position.
Okay, okay. I think maybe by the end of the day, I don't like to make decisions unless all three of us are here, but in that particular case, maybe we can make a decision by the end of the day as to what direction that we want to go in, whether we look at the applicants and see what's available and move on from there. If we have to have Axelrod, we have to hire her, we'll do that too, but
Okay.
we'll take some action today.
Well, to go back to taking action, what response can I give to staff and residents in terms of where the commission's going with a permanent appointment?
We
Because it's
ha-
creating problems. The lack of an
Yeah.
appointment, now we're looking
I
at
read your
almost
letter.
a month.
Yeah.
We're getting into some issues
Mm-hmm.
of effectiveness and problem.
Yeah.
Is there a time period that I could tell them?
Probably within a week,
Is there, it is an anxious time.
yeah. I opened up your letter this morning, and I let Commissioner Kenny look at it and review it, and so we will take your advice under consideration.
Well, I
realize that
I
there's
I
a
have personal
morale
interest, of
problem.
course, in that and would appreciate it,
Yeah.
but it's also organizational
Mhm.
and resident, perhaps, community relations,
Yep.
too.
Yep.
I do have something that I want to present to you, not for decisions, I wouldn't want to put anything to you. But I did want you to know that working on the on the, as we talked about, the wait list.
Yep.
And not to go through the whole thing, but I think the important part's probably right on page 1. I know it might seem a little over-engineered, but I've really broken down into 11 different categories, how we might want to
Point of order,
prioritize people.
Mr. Chairman.
You like to have a copy, right?
Yes, I would.
Oh, I happen to have an extra copy.
Thank you.
I don't have to.
Well, I do.
Thank you very much.
The first category, being county residents who are Medicaid eligible. The second, county residents who are private pay. The third, county residents of
These are
less-
not in any particular order?
Oh, this is the order,
This is the order that-
priority that I
Okay.
would propose to you, but recognize fully that it's for
Okay.
you to decide, whether it's the appropriate order.
Okay.
Third would be county residents of less than 1 year who are Medicaid. So essentially, for discussion purposes, I've separated out county residents of a year or more and county residents of less than a year. Fourth would be county residents of less than a year who are private pay. Fifth, immediate family of county residents. Sixth, non-immediate family of county residents. Anticipating there's a difference between someone in the county bringing in their mother and someone bringing in their third cousin.
Yep.
Yeah,
yeah.
for your,
Yeah.
former county residents. The reason I include former county residents, you could have somebody who lived here their entire life and went to Florida for 4 years. While they wouldn't be the same as someone who's presently a county resident, it seems as though they should have, this is my personal opinion, that you'd have to confirm or deny preference over somebody from Hillsborough County.
Okay.
8 is an unusual one, tax-paying, non-county residents. Conceivably, you could have somebody up here who
A
has
second
owned
home.
property, owned a second home for years and years,
Yeah.
pays taxes, and it would seem, and here again in my estimation, that they should have some preference. Then we'd be looking at New Hampshire out of county who are private pay, New Hampshire out of county who are Medicaid eligible, and then the last would be others by commissioner exception, which I think is important to build in because you can, I've notably excluded anybody from out of state. Conceivably, there'll be exceptions for which no administrative policy is going to adequately address, and the commissioners would be the logical people to consider, logical
Okay.
forum to consider that. Now,
You did not take into consideration the urgency of a person, whether they're at home or whether they're at another nursing home,
I didn't.
right?
And that's, now, did take into account, well, of course, defining residence is a tricky one, and that would need to be defined, but urgency would be, urgency is the most difficult one to consider, because you have to decide it within 2 different ways, whether it's within the category or whether it exceeds all categories.
Yeah.
Does an out-of-county person with an urgent need trump somebody who's in-county without one? Well, while I might not think so, it's a fair question. It could be that given how difficult that is, that the urgency question might be something for the commissioners, because it's going to be somewhat subjective. Urgency on the part of Huggins Hospital is somebody who they have to discharge right away. It's
Right.
urgent for Huggins. Is it really urgent, and I say that with no offense to Huggins, with
Yeah.
any acute hospital, they can develop an urgent need for what happens to somebody who isn't appropriate for home. Should that person go to the top of the list if they're a county resident? It's not a clear choice that way.
Yeah, yeah.
It could be that it could be that they are.
Mhm.
I guess I would look to you for some direction for how you'd like to see that, but the point is well taken. Urgency isn't included here, but we do need to find some way to address that.
Okay. 9 and 10, you reversed those from 1 and 2.
I did. And the reason is, it's not accidental. My rationale was, I'm assuming that not only do we provide good care, we also have to be good stewards. If somebody's coming from out of county, well, I see their county as the one that should be taking on the Medicaid responsibility.
Yeah.
If they're coming from out of county and they're private pay, it's benefiting Carroll County.
Yeah,
So, here again, it's arbitrary, but I did it deliberately with the idea of enhancing revenues. And
okay. Okay,
now, one thing that I point to later in the proposal, that functionally, we almost have about three different lists, not just with people, but you have to think of Mountain View as having.
Availability.
Having availability, but not just any bed. Some are beds special, some will be gender-based on the 4 apartments that we have.
Yeah.
But we also have 2 neighborhoods that are especially designated for those with memory support, Alzheimer's.
Mhm.
So somebody who could be first on the list might not be appropriate, somebody who might need that.
Yeah.
So it's not as though there's a list where if you're number 1, you get the next bed, you get the next
Yeah.
available bed, appropriate available bed.
Yep, yeah. That answers your question, Mr. Babson?
Yes, it's just open for discussion, Mr. Chairman? Or
Well,
questions,
we're
or-
running behind, but I think we need to take this, look it over, and we'll put it on the agenda for next week so that we can discuss it a lot further.
Will you-
It's all
would you
right?
be kind enough to make it an open discussion in next week's
Sure,
agenda?
yeah. Unless you have some really quick points right
No,
now. that-
I do, but I'll wait till next week.
Okay. This is the first I've seen it, but,
It's a starting point, so you're certainly not going to offend me by modifying, suggesting, or changing it, but I thought at least gets it. I was surprised at the absence of there being any kind of formalized policy, because I think for everybody's confidence in the system, it needs to be out there for all
yeah,
to see.
yeah, it's been brought up by Mr. Brown and Mr. Babson that there should be a policy, yep. Okay.
Thank you.
One
Anything
quick
else you
question.
want? Yes, Mr. Babson?
The discussion this morning was emergency admittance. Could Mr. Chandler work that into his list for next week somewhere, or explain? I'm sure he's
Is
not
it- is-
familiar with the policy now, but if that's what they're using over there, it ought to be on this list somewhere.
Yeah, I don't,
Let
the
me see if this
emergency
will-
situation is almost like a case-by-case basis, I think.
But let me see if there's a way to factor in urgency, to see how it would be dealt with by exception. You know,
Yeah.
whether it falls into a category, whether it necessarily falls into number 11 as a commissioner's exception,
Yeah.
or whether there's
Yeah.
room for administrative.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just thinking off the top of my head, if the emergency was equal at a hospital and at home, I would tend to look at the one at home, because the one in the hospital is being taken care of, even though they'd like to move them out. The one at home, to me, would have a higher priority, but if they're equal as far as an emergency. And then you'd have to look at that. I don't know how you decide what the emergency is, but.
Another question, Mr. Chairman, just
Yes.
so that I can work this over at a later date. Mr. Chandler said on number 10, he switched 9 and 10 because another county is paying for the Medicare eligible person in our nursing home, and we've heard that.
Yep.
We pay. My question is, each month, do we send out a bill to all the different counties that we're holding that residents are in our nursing home, and vice versa? Do we get bills in from all other counties where they've got one of our residents?
We get bills in from other nursing homes. We have to pay 25% of that, where the feds pay 50 and the state pays 25. Am I correct?
That I'm not sure about, but I'm pretty sure that we do not bill or receive money from other counties.
No.
So that if we take somebody from Hillsborough County has no, we don't bill Hillsborough County.
How do you get the money? You made the statement, out of county who are medical eligible because the other counties are paying for it.
Oh, well,
How do we get our money from that?
They
then,
would be
Howard?
otherwise obligated to pay for it. So if somebody from Hillsborough County comes here, quite frankly, if they're Medicaid, it'd be better that they go to the Hillsborough County home. Because if they come here, they're an expense to us. It is not a reimbursed expense from county to county.
Then why did you say the other county is paying for it?
Oh, they would be obligated to pay for it in their own facility, but not here.
Okay.
No, they do not pay us. So what it really represents is that if you're taking, if you're going to incur financial subsidy, doing it for another county should be last of the list, if at all. In fact, you might choose that it might not be at all.
Well, I'm even more confused, because I've been coming to these meetings for a long time, and I don't know how many times over 5.5 years we've heard say that we have to pay for our residents in other counties,
In other private nursing homes, yeah.
or private nursing homes.
Yep.
And Mr. Chandler is, it appears to me, saying the opposite.
I think he's talking about Medicaid.
If you can be
referenced
Medicaid in a
it.
private nursing home, but the portion that the Carroll County is paying isn't the Medicaid portion. The cost of Mountain View is greater than the reimbursement that's received from both private pay and Medicaid. So there is inherently a
Medicaid
county
especially.
contribution. The county does not pay that contribution when somebody is in another facility, be it private pay or another county.
Mhm. All right, we'll get that cleaned up.
Okay.
Okay, you got anything else that you want to add?
That's all I have.
All right. Thank you very much, and we'll reread this, and if we got some questions, and if anybody has questions regarding this, why don't you get in touch with Mr. Chandler, so that next week we can look at it again and discuss it and prove it, whatever we have to do. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chandler. Jason?
Bonnie?
This morning, we have 49 in-house, 0 weekenders, 0 out on electronic monitoring, 9 transfers, 5 out on pretrial release, total population of 63. Took in 16 inmates last week, 8 were repeaters and 16 was released. 1 came in for a warrant, booked 14 times in 19 years. 1 for a violation of protective order, booked 2 times this year. 1 for a burglary, booked 5 times in 6 years. 1 for a warrant, booked 4 times in 3 years. 1 for operating after suspension, booked 2 times in 5 years. 1 for DUI, act prohibited in protective custody, booked 3 times in 6 years. 1 for possession of drugs in a motor vehicle, booked 4 times in 3 years. And 1 for acts prohibited in falsifying physical evidence, booked 3 times in 2 years. We had to ship an inmate out to Stratford County for housing conflicts. We sent 2...
One of our inmates?
One of our inmates, yeah. We had to send 2 inmates to the state hospital for IEAs. 1, while down there, received additional charges, so now that person's in the Merrimack County Department of Corrections. Took 2 administrative...
They did something while they were in Merrimack County?
In the state hospital, yes, sir.
They
got it.
committed something, and so now they're in Merrimack County Jail?
Yes.
Okay.
Took 2 inmates from Belknap County yesterday. 1 is actually starting a sentence with us today, so his time up there was finished today, so he's actually our inmate. And another is a sentenced female who will be getting out in a couple of weeks. We have the academy that starts this coming Monday. We're sending 2 officers down. Based on Dominic's presentation last week, I went over Friday, looked at that.
I heard this morning already, but go ahead.
I got the charge. I got the Crown Vic. It's in really good shape. So we're going to go over and pick that up today. And then I sent the email out regarding the recidivism meeting.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
And that's going to be scheduled for Friday, October 26th, here in this room.
Oh.
And that's at 1:30, 1 o'clock, I'm sorry.
Which you said at 1 o'clock?
Yes, Friday
On
the
the 26th.
26th, it's a
right?
Friday. Yes, sir. And Lori's already reserved the room.
The meeting is here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you got Lance, Zach,
I'll get all that information out.
Janice Crawford. I don't know how many you have on the list, but,
She was in the initial email.
Mhm.
I believe she responded already and said she can
Okay.
attend.
and the judge is available in too?
Yes,
Great.
it's actually set up around his schedule.
Okay. It's interesting, I gave a presentation last night to the Wolfboro Lions Club regarding county government, and the question came up as to, I mentioned 42% returns, and they said, what about a halfway house, and some other suggestions, but we don't have any halfway houses that I'm aware of
No, but they do at the state level,
at the state level.
but none locally.
And did they close the mental hospital
That's-
at the state level?
No, I
Or
think they
reduce it?
reduced, they
Reduced
reduced the
it.
number of beds.
Yeah, okay.
As a follow-up to the NIC presentation, they'll be sending out a full report, and I think that will probably go to the executive committee first, and then it'll get disseminated down to the superintendent's affiliate. That's when they came in and talked about the
It goes, yeah, it goes to the,
certification
yeah, okay.
and,
Actually,
and then-
it'll go to the officers and then probably to the executive committee.
Then, one day last week, I want to say it was last Tuesday, I attended a committee hearing down in Concord in regards to the authority of the superintendent being able to put people out on work release.
Mhm.
Several superintendents attended that meeting, and the chairman of the committee, former Superintendent Gene Sharon out of Rockingham, they called for a motion to approve the language being amended. So I believe it's going to be sent up to the House floor for a formal vote sometime during this legislation.
And that is to give superintendents the authority to put them out on
Work release.
work release. Those that are pretrial
No,
or sentence?
sentence.
Sentence?
Yeah, they're going to amend, attempt to amend 650-119.
And when they go out on work release, do they have to come back periodically, every weekend? or
No,
how
no,
they
they'll come
do
back,
it?
they'll come back at night.
Every night?
Mhm.
So that requires more pat searching and,
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yep. But it's good to get the language changed to take some of the burden off the courts. Give us the authority to do it.
Okay. Do you know who the sponsor, you don't know who the sponsors are gonna be?
I don't know who sponsored it. I want to say the sponsor came out of Rockingham County, I believe.
Okay.
So,
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I missed it, what you said. You purchased the 2007, the
there,
car?
yes, ma'am.
Yeah, how much was it?
$3,500.
Oh, okay. And what is the mileage on it?
107,000. The NADA book value on it is around 6,000. Trade-in value was between 3,100 and 4,100.
You said it was in good shape, huh?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
They accepted your offer. I talked with an individual who attended the meeting, and they accepted it right after they got your letter,
Did they? Okay.
even though they had bids coming in.
2 bids.
Yep. You know too.
Yes, I was there.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Safety Committee, could I ask,
Oh, yeah. Oh, I brought something else.
Betsy or Bob, you're both on the Safety Committee, and Janice, you're on there too. Is there a reason for non-public
Yeah, it involves security.
security?
Yeah.
Okay. Becky, yours is personnel?
For contractual discussion.
Excuse me?
For contract discussion.
Okay.
It's not for contract discussion.
And Janice, your non-public is for personnel?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Just have a minute.
We have minutes, though.
Okay, go ahead.
The
We'll do the
minutes-
minutes and then we'll open it up for public comment.
The minutes from last week, September 19, 2012. All the way down by Jason Johnson, we have 2 people attended. Crawford, we're going to put in Janice Crawford. And the other name is Lansek. and I don't know what the correct spelling is. It is land, and it is probably S-A-C-K.
ZA, I think it's Z-A-C-K, correct?
Z-A-K.
What?
Z-A-K.
Z-A-K? Okay.
Okay, so land, C-A-K.
Any other corrections?
No, that's it.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of September 19th
2012.
with those two corrections. I'll make that motion. Prior second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have something quick. Commissioner Solomon claimed that Commissioner Kenny made several unsubstantiated statements.
Which one are you reading from?
Yeah, where are you?
No, September 19th.
What paragraph?
By Commissioner Solomon, her statements. She said Commissioner Kenny made several unsubstantiated statements about, I think it was about the money issues. I think those claims are valid because $810. It was about registration fee, about a 501c3 committee. She even said it was paid back. $750 was about the flooding of PBS. They submit that. The $53,000, Cybertron submit the invoice that it is $53,000, and EJA submit $1,800, and that was the bill for attending 2 subcommittee meetings. First, we were talking a couple weeks ago about $45,000 because Cybertron get paid 2 different times. He wanted money up front for the parts, that was $45,000, and then he gets separate paid $7,500. So I think the amounts are valid. That's it. So all in favor?
Okay. All those who support the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so voted. Do we have any
I have
other-
some non-public minutes to release. September 14, 2011. And last week, Commissioner Solomon said this was okay, and you read it too, the 12th. And this is the 3rd.
All right, I'd move that we release the Wednesday meeting, October 12th, non-public minutes. Do I hear a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
And so approved.
Nobody wants to inspect. Anyone wants to inspect the one that we released?
You want to make a motion?
I make a motion to release the non-public minutes from September 14, 2011.
I'll second it. Any further discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and so voted. Is that end of minutes?
That is one. That is another one.
See that?
It was inspected.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we release August 3rd, non-public minutes, 2011.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so voted.
Yeah, we signed
Put the
it.
date on
Yeah.
that too.
I would put the release.
Okay. All right, I'll open it up for non-public,
Public input.
public input. Go ahead, Mr. Babson.
Yeah, had I had the opportunity, I would have asked Will, why is that green truck parked
It's
out
be-
here, or did it die there, or is this another
died
show to
there.
get money to buy another one?
It died there. I believe it's a starter that's going on it. And they've ordered one, and it's going to take a couple weeks or something to get that part. I thought, and Will told me that they were going to pull it, get it out of here and pull it over to the maintenance shop. Some people thought it was because we're looking for a new truck, like we
That's what I asked.
put the sander truck out here, that was put out for people to look at. That truck hardly ever leaves the complex. I don't know if it would pass inspection or not, but anyway, the starter's going on it, and that's why it's sitting there.
Thank you. My other question is, the non-public for safety reasons. I think the public.
Security.
Security. If it's a case of somebody over at the nursing home stealing drugs, I can see that being a non-public, but we're not talking about the jail and breaking out at all.
I'm not sure what we're talking about.
And-
It's a safety committee for the complex.
I'd like to have a little more explanation of why you're going into non-public for security reason about the nursing home. Or maybe it isn't about the
Well, I
nursing
don't
home, I'm
know
just
what it is.
assuming it is.
I think it may deal with, we had an escape at the jail, and that person could have gotten into any vehicles. Apparently, we had talked about this a few weeks back, that in some cases, the keys are left in the car.
Well,
In some cases, there are other things that are in the car that could be taken out. I think it's an issue that we need to address, in that we are not held liable for anything that is taken out of a car.
if it's about this letter, I just don't see how that falls on a non-public. I mean, it's an issue of security here on the campus, locking your cars. Why would that be non-public? You
Anybody
don't
on
want
the,
the public to know they should lock the car, but the people who are working here should know?
anybody on the committee want to explain
Yeah,
that?
I think that what we're trying to do here is just to bring this forward to the commissioners in non-public first. And anything that results from this will of course be made public. But I think because of because it is a security nature, it needs to go through the commissioners first, meet their review, and then I think at that point, going forward, it will be decided how public it is made, which I'm sure it will.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mr. Babson?
I would dispute that 100%. If you're discussing a policy of locking cars, we all know why you lock the cars, you don't want stuff stolen out of it. I personally would like to hear the commissioner's viewpoints on why this isn't a good idea. I mean, things are missing out of cars. First of all, you ought to be smart enough to lock your car without a policy. And second of all, if you're not, the public ought to be able to hear why the commissioners think that it's a good idea or a bad idea. I just don't see this being non-public in any way, shape, or manner.
We're
I'm not sure we can enforce it, actually, but,
That's gonna be my
go ahead, Bob. We don't have a campus police here as such, but go ahead.
It's up to the commissioners. If you want to choose to go ahead and do this public, that's fine with us. I just thought that the right direction to go would be to do it non-public first and then let it go public after it's been discussed with you. But if you want to go public, that's fine with us.
I think since you gave this out, we at least I had a chance to look at it this morning, and I think we could go with it, with public.
Okay.
So if the committee wants to discuss it,
Thank you,
move forward.
thank you.
And who's the committee made up of?
It's made up of various, the safety committee is made up of various members on the campus. We have Betsy from the attorney's office, we've got somebody from the deeds, Jerry Gagney, Al Pullman from our maintenance department is on it, Will, the jail is on it, Becky Mason is on it.
Okay.
So it's various people from the campus. So what we wanted to present to you today, from the safety committee, is a locked car policy. In light of recent events, we all came to the conclusion that we really need to have a locked car policy here. There were instances that cars were unlocked, keys were in cars. That left opportunity for anything to happen. Not just on an escaped inmate level, but on somebody who is released from the jail. Quite frequently, they just let them walk out the front door with whatever clothing they have, and if they're looking for an opportunity to find a free ride, it's very easy to in this parking lot. We also have someone else, those on the committee also brought up the instance of a resident, a nursing home resident at another campus, decided that they wanted to leave.
Go for a ride.
And they went out and found a car with keys in it and went for a ride. So I think in the best interests of, and also the courthouse, we don't know what happens at the courthouse. But I think in the best interests of the employees, the residents, the entire county, it's the safety committee's recommendation that the commissioners institute a locked car policy campus-wide.
And how would we enforce it?
Enforcement would be left up to you, whether you wanted to have any disciplinary measures or not. I think this is a starting point, that we insist that people lock their cars, remove the keys, don't leave screwdrivers or knives on the seat. Use common sense. Have a secure vehicle, don't leave anything of opportunity. This isn't your normal grocery store parking lot. We have opportunities here that don't happen elsewhere.
Would it satisfy the committee if we posted recommendations versus a policy? A recommendation that all cars be locked, it's at their own risk that they leave them unlocked, things in the vehicle that can be taken, is that
Well, it would have to be,
acceptable?
Obviously, anything that that the commissioners imposed would, if they didn't follow it, it would be at their own risk. But I'm not sure that we're at the point yet where you need to institute any disciplinary measures. But at least, I think it needs to be policy that you have to say that cars need to be locked and keys aren't to be left in cars, period.
I think some of the safety concerns that Bob raised in this, especially with the nursing home people and people getting released from the jail, I think it is serious enough that it should rise to the level of, and it's a very simple statement that could be added to a policy handbook that all vehicles, will be locked. His policy comes down to a one-sentence statement.
Yeah. What happens with maintenance people that come in to do work here from outside? We're going to require them to lock their truck and their vehicle too?
I think we need to ask them to.
Open it up to the public. Any comments? Ed?
If you put a sign, a pretty large sign on all the entrance doors to the facility,
Yep.
so if somebody comes from outside in, they'll see a sign, make sure your car is locked. I mean, that'd be the first thing to do. That way the person would, oop, didn't do it, and they'd go back.
Good point.
It's easy.
Yep.
This doesn't have to be complicated.
Okay. Mr. Babson?
What precipitated this whole discussion? Have we had a rash of break-ins or stolen cars or people using them to sleep in when they can't find a bed, or?
What started this discussion was the jailbreak. Part of locking down the campus was the sheriff's department went around and inspected every single vehicle that was here to secure them, and they found multiple cars that were unlocked. Some with keys in the ignition, some with keys on the floor. What better opportunity for an escaped inmate to grab a car and go for a ride?
And we have two different levels of people that we're addressing. We have the general public and we have the employees of the county. And especially in the wintertime, because of the no smoking policy, the employees use the cars fairly heavily.
So that's what started the discussion, and then everything else was added on top of that.
Mr. Brown, you had your hand up?
No.
Okay. Anybody else for public input on this issue? Damon?
Does anybody know if there is liability if somebody's car was stolen? Would somebody sue the county, or they realize that they left their keys in the car and some inmate stole it? It's kind of their fault.
I wouldn't think so, but
I don't know.
I'm not
I
sure.
can't believe the county would be liable.
I wonder if there is such a liability, if you said, lock your cars, anyone who does it at your own risk, something to that effect.
I think Ed's suggestion with the sign is definitely appropriate. I just don't know how you enforce it. They park here at their own risk.
Well, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of policies that are in place that are difficult to enforce. This would just be another one, but I think the commissioners, the county needs to take the ground that they want people's cars locked. Whether people choose to do that or not, they do so at their own risk, but your intent has been made clear.
I don't know, Commissioner Kenny, but I tend to feel that it ought to be a recommendation, put in the policy manual that they park here at their own risk, and we recommend highly that their cars be locked and that nothing be left on the seats that could be stolen. And the same be for any maintenance or outside people that visit the facility. We can put that in a policy as a recommendation, but I'm not sure we can enforce it.
Well, we only present this to you as a recommendation.
Okay.
You need to discuss this amongst
Yep.
yourselves, you need to discuss this with HR.
Yep. Okay. Ed, comment? Go ahead.
Yeah. For employees, you can enforce it. You
For
simply
what?
tell them, for employees, you can enforce it.
Yeah.
If their car is entered and used by escapee or somebody from the nursing home, they're fired. Make them understand that it's their responsibility to secure their vehicle if they're an employee.
Okay.
Other counties do have disciplinary measures for
They do.
for unlocked cars,
Okay.
yes, but it's up to you to decide whether you want to go
Okay.
to that
Becky?
level.
I agree from a risk perspective. We're there to protect our residents and stuff, and where we have inmates so close that get released and walk down the road, it would be really hard to defend anything saying that, a resident got into a vehicle and drove off, or an inmate got into a
Mhm.
vehicle and got a weapon out. I mean, no offense, it's hunting season, people hunt around here. I think we could very easily enforce that you need to keep your cars locked so that nothing in that vehicle can be used against anybody on the complex. It would be
Mhm.
different if we didn't have a jail next door and stuff. If you go like Wolfboro Bay, that's one thing, but
Mhm.
I really think where we have the amount of people and activity that we have here, it'd be very hard to explain how we didn't protect someone in the public because they were able to get into a vehicle and get out a weapon.
Mhm.
And I
Okay.
think too, disciplinary action, first time, just like we do everything else. First time's a warning, education, second time's a little sterner.
Yeah.
Third time, if they actually get something, or a resident gets in a vehicle and drives off, or an inmate does, that's a degree to sit down and say, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
This may lead up to termination.
Okay. All right, I think we'll let the HR person take a look at this and come up with also a recommendation. Did it pass through HR?
No,
Just,
she's
you're on the
looked-
committee
she's-
anyway,
She's on the
okay.
committee, she's looked
Okay.
at it, but,
Yeah.
you know, we gotta send it to you first, and,
Okay.
like I said, we can make the recommendation, what you do with it, it's your pleasure.
Okay.
Yes, I have a quick question. Do you know what other counties are doing? Do they have a policy? Do they have
Yeah,
this? A
Grafton-
lock car policy?
Grafton County has a policy.
Grafton County also has county cars, and some of their policy covers how you handle county cars as opposed to private, owned vehicles.
Yeah, they have an automobile safety policy where they want all cars locked. And they have a section on what constitutes a corrective action,
Yeah.
and one of the items on corrective action is keys left in vehicle on county property.
And what is the corrective action recommended, or
Well, there's...
what's the disciplinary action?
Written warnings, suspension.
Okay.
I would imagine the termination is in there somewhere.
Instead of reinventing the wheel, maybe we can use some of that language and put together a policy. Okay? Anything else?
I don't think so, not at this time.
I wanted to touch a little bit on what Howard was asking about the lifts earlier. You realize that we're having a problem with the carpet at the nursing home.
At the what?
At the nursing home.
Yeah.
The main carpet, we've had that replaced a
Yes,
couple of
yes, yes,
times.
yes,
We've
yes,
discussed
yeah.
that.
Yep.
Well, we have a carpet in place currently that didn't pass muster.
Yeah.
Okay?
By who? By you?
By
or-
me, Becky, Howard.
Okay,
It's it's got some pattern drift.
Yeah.
We paid a lot of money for that carpet.
Yep.
It's not perfect.
Yep.
And it should be.
Yep.
However, when the tables are all in place, you don't see this pattern drift. It's a nice carpet. If you look at it closely, you can see where the pattern goes astray. We're entertaining the thought, and we want some direction from the commissioners. Maybe we should consider accepting it and settling with the carpet company. Taking some cash from them.
Mhm.
Using that cash to help support something that the nursing home needs.
If we accept that, then that goes into the general fund that's left over from the nursing home construction.
Mhm.
Can't be used for other things.
That's why-
Unless it pertains to,
That's why I'm
Construction.
asking. A couple people have asked me the question, why don't we settle? And
Yeah.
I said, well, we paid a lot of money for the carpet, we shouldn't
Yeah.
have to. But the question needs to be asked.
Okay.
If we settle, can we take, we're only talking $10,000, I think, for that one room. If
How
we-
many times did they replace that carpet?
We're on our third carpet now.
So this is the third one
Mhm.
that they,
Mhm.
so they,
And they haven't been able to make it right yet.
and it was taken out before because of the same reason?
Well, it was a
Right.
different carpet. The first carpet, they realized that the manufacturer, because it's such a long run and there's such a defined pattern,
Yeah.
that they couldn't make it match. They said, they just basically put their hands up and said, we quit, we can't do it. So we found another carpet that was suitable, and we had a temporary carpet installed. A temporary carpet was one of those three, but this carpet that's in there now was supposed to be our final product. And that one was supposed to have been hand inspected, not just with the lasers on the machine. It was supposed to be an extra level of quality control. And it still made it to Ossipee, and it still ended up being installed under the floor. Imperfect.
Okay, the carpet company is different than the wood flooring,
Correct.
correct?
Well, the installer is the same.
Same company did the installing?
The installer is the same, but obviously the product comes from different manufacturers.
So we settle with the manufacturing.
Yes, the manufacturer of the carpet.
And not the installation.
Right.
So
And
it's
I-
not an installation problem, it's a,
No.
It's the carpet.
No, it's a
Carpet
it's a
company.
manufacturer problem. So we're just kind of throwing this out there to see what you think. If this is something that we can do. If we were to settle with them, can we take this money, buy a few lifts?
why what?
A few lifts.
Lifts?
Resident lifts.
No, the lifts.
Would there be any objection? Is it legal? Can we do this?
I wouldn't want to say that right now, but I would.
Would you
see
think
if we
about it?
could. We can take it under consideration, sure.
Okay.
Um,
I need to act on this pretty quickly.
Because the warranty's running out, or?
Well, no, they're gonna stand behind it, but it'd be nice to get it done.
Yeah, okay. But so the people at the nursing home feel the same way you do, that,
Well, Howard and I have talked about it, and, we think it's something that we should at least pursue and ask the questions.
so it's not really that obvious that when the tables are there, you don't notice it, or?
Well, if I pull a couple tables out of the way and I tell you to look in this direction, you can see it. It looks like a bad golf swing. But when the tables are all in place, if you're not looking for it, you're not gonna see
Are
it.
you satisfied with the carpet quality itself?
Yes. The carpet's, it's nice carpet.
Okay. All right. We will, do you have the information on the carpet companies and so forth?
I have it readily available.
Or can you get it from Bonapage and Stone?
Yeah, I have it
Okay.
readily available.
Okay.
And
Let's
like-
see what the exact cost was and then decide what we should do. If
Okay.
everybody's in agreeable that we should settle, then we'll settle, they'll replace it again.
Okay.
And they probably won't want to do that again.
Well, that's kind of,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Yeah, I have another question. That we're talking about a nursing home. I got your email, you were talking about a thermostats.
Yes.
You need to remove,
Yes.
what is the status on that now?
They're being moved Friday.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have 4 thermostats that are being moved Friday.
So why are they being moved again?
Because they're catching draft from another unit.
They're too close, they were,
They're too close to another unit.
So 4 are going to be removed and.
Not removed, just moved.
Replaced.
To a better
Oh, okay,
location.
you're going to-
Location.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who's going to do that?
The original installer.
Okay. Do we have to pay again?
Yes, we
Yeah.
do.
So why do we have to pay for that error then?
Because there's what they call a contingency fund. There's a certain percentage of construction project that, and I don't understand why they do this, but there's a certain contingency that they allow for omissions, certain amount of mistakes that they would take that money from. These are all small numbers. Any large problems, I'm sure that the manufacturer would stand behind, or the installer would stand behind. But the other fact is they return $2 million worth of money to us, of this contingency money. So there basically is no more money for them to draw from.
Yeah, I understand that, but if they make the mistake, shouldn't
I-
they replace it and they should take care of it?
I-
Because they know there's $2 million left, so everything what is a mistake or an error, oh, there's $2 million left, we can just tap out of that fund there.
I agree.
the total cost is $900.
We're talking $900,
Yeah,
and
but still.
I agree with you 100%. The fact remains, though, that we need to have these thermostats moved. and
Otherwise, it's costing us for heat and air conditioning.
Heating and air conditioning, and I have to go into the computer system 2, 3, 4 times a day and manipulate numbers.
And basically, they don't want to pay for it.
They don't want to pay for it, correct. But the fact is, I need these thermostats moved, and I'd rather fight about the money afterwards, get the thermostats moved.
Mhm.
But I agree with you, you're absolutely right. I don't think this is something that the county should have to pay
They
for,
shouldn't.
Mhm.
but I need them moved.
Okay, any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Becky, yours is strictly non-public?
Yours is, what did you say again? Contract
And personnel.
Okay.
and personal? And Janice, you coming with her? Are you separate? You're just for personnel? Oh, okay.
Public input? Go ahead.
This whole thing has raised all sorts of red flags here, Mr. Chairman. First of all, it's very upsetting to me that you were gonna go into non-public session to discuss security, which we changed. But had you done that, and had I not spoken out, you would have carried on this entire discussion about the thermostats in a non-public session.
Well,
without-
no, that wouldn't have happened.
So you would have sent
I
them
don't
home and had them
know.
come back next week.
See, I don't know what the security situation was. All I saw was the lot policy. So I don't know what, when these people are put on the agenda and non-publics are put next to them, I don't know until we come here and ask, is it personnel, is it contracts, what is it?
I understand
Yeah.
that, but this discussion on thermostats came up
That's different.
afterwards.
No, I
That's
just
different.
asked the question.
She asked the
Because it's
question.
just public, it's public session, so I asked it.
But my question is, would you have asked it if it was a non-public
No.
session and we weren't here?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
Benefit of the doubt, thank you.
The next thing, on these minutes that have been released, it wasn't too many years ago that I reached into my wallet and took some money out over at the courthouse to get a injunction against the commissioners because they were going to discuss the budget in a non-public session, if you recall, and they refused to change their mind and went forward with it until I went over there. Why in the world is Robin sent out the budget policy to all department heads and election officials to review? What in the world does that have to do with
What's the date on
non-public
that?
session?
That was on.
August 3rd,
In 2011. 2011, yeah.
A, you're just releasing it now, and B, what's your explanation for having that in a non-public session?
Don't have any.
Okay, next question. Why isn't Bonnet, Page and Stone, as our general contractor, doing battle for us on these thermostats?
I don't know. Bob was in charge of that.
Next question is, did the contractor just go around randomly and say, we'll put up these 4 thermostats right here? Or was it in the blueprint? And if it were in the blueprint and it were put in the right place, then I can see someone having to pay to move them.
Yeah.
But I would think if that was the case, it would be the architect's responsibility,
Yeah, I do too.
not ours.
I do too.
They want to charge us
But
to
they
come
don't
up
wanna
here and
pay
sit.
it.
Excuse me, Commissioner. They want to come up here and charge us $180 or $1,800 to sit in on a safety committee. But they don't want to take responsibility when it comes to thermostats being in the wrong place.
Yep.
The other, well, I guess you took up the drift in the rug. Thank you, Mr.
Anybody else, public input? Mr. Brown?
The budget, keep hearing that over the 4-year period here of your budget history
Yep.
of the new nursing home. Well, the new nursing home was bonded out over 20 years.
Yeah.
So if you take the 23.5 million, divided by 20 years, that comes out to 1.175 million. Now, not knowing what the interest rate on the bond is.
3%, 3%.
What I did was, not knowing that, I just rounded it up from 1.175 million up to 1.5 million per year, because not knowing the interest rate. So if you subtract the 1.5 million a year from the 5.14 million that the budget has gone up over this same period, that still leaves an increase of 3.64 million over the last 4 years. That's still a sizable amount of an increase, which excludes the new nursing home. That's almost $1 million increase per year.
Yeah. You gotta remember that our health insurance rates jumped up 18%, a number of those years. Our unemployment security has jumped up tremendously. We had contracts with the union contracts that went up over those years, because they only went One of them went 1 year, one of them went 2 years. So there's contracts, wages that went up. So there's a lot of things that add into that increase.
I'm just trying to make that, it's still
Yeah.
a sizable increase.
Oh, yeah, yep,
It's a lot of money.
yep,
Thank you.
I agree. Anybody else got any public input? If not, thank you very much. Hope to see you all next week.
And if you can make a motion, go into non-public. Motion for into
Okay.
non-public
I'll make a motion and we go into non-public for personnel
and contract.
and contracts.
Second,
Roll call,
Commissioner Kenny, yes. Commissioner Sorensen?
yes. So voted. Thank you for coming.